On the night of November 6th this year, voters across the country sent a resounding message of disapproval to Republicans. Let's face it, according to NBC, the latest numbers have Democrats gaining 40 seats in the House of Representatives. 40. Having suffered losses nationwide, some Republicans, however, are out to subvert the message. Watch them. Republican legislatures in Wisconsin and Michigan, in a move that seems to usurp the will of the voters, are moving ahead with legislation to kneecap incoming Democrats elected to statewide offices like attorneys general and governors. Well, this comes as new details of what looks like vote stealing continue to emerge down in South Carolina. The state's Board of Elections has launched an investigation in the Tar Heel State into irregularities with absentee ballots in the 9th Congressional District, with a particular focus on Bladen and now Robeson County. Investigators have followed up with witnesses who link one individual, McCrae Dallas, to a seemingly larger effort to collect absentee ballots. He was hired as a contractor to work on absentee ballot outreach for the Republican candidate for Congress, Mark Harris. Earlier today, we learned that the Democratic challenger there, Dan McCready, has rescinded his concession speech. Documents posted on the Election Board website show that Dallas turned in nearly 600 applications for absentee ballots. You're only supposed to apply for your own. According to news reports, the Election Board has also issued subpoenas for Harris's campaign, the firm that hired Dallas, as well as a candidate for sheriff in the same election who also hired Dallas. Well, if the board determines that it has found evidence of irregularities that may have tainted the results, they can call a new election down there. Didn't know you could do that. For more, I'm joined by Leanne Caldwell, NBC News political reporter who's down in North Carolina, Zerlina Maxwell, director of the progressive programming at Sirius XM, and John Brabender, Republican strategist. Leanne, tell us about how it looks down there overall for this vote stealing thing.
Yeah, sure, Chris. So I'm in Robeson County, and Robeson and Bladen County, which is adjacent. We're really ground zero for this alleged voter fraud or election fraud that's been taking place. And it has to do with absentee ballots. We have spoken with voters who said that random unknown people came to their doors and said that they would collect their absentee ballots and then mail them in for them, even saying, you don't have to fill it out, I'll fill it out for you. Or here, I have some stamps, I'll mail your ballot for you. And so what the state election board is looking into is how rampant and how widespread this is. They have held 2 closed-door hearings that tell them that there is enough there that they are not going to certify this race. They must hold an evidentiary hearing with all the evidence they found in their investigation by December 21st. And they have a couple options there. They can certify the race, they can hold a new election, or they can continue to investigate. And we're going to have to wait for them to make that decision until that hearing, Chris.
John, it seems to be 2 questions here, elections and criminality. You can say that the guy Harris won by enough votes, you're going to let it go because he won by more than they can have evidence of cheating. But you also have to put away the person who did it, I think. Somebody's out there getting people, unsuspecting people, older age people, mailing them absentee ballots they never even asked for, and then showing up when they knew they're going to arrive at their post in their house and saying, can I have your absentee ballot, which I know you've got? Because I'm going to fill it out.
Well, no, and that's fair. Let's not forget, too, the Republican in the primary also had concerns about irregularities.
About this kind of stuff.
Right. Now, look, we mentioned Michigan and Wisconsin where Republicans are gaming the system. This is potentially fraud, which all of us should agree is outrageous.
I hate people that cheat.
And frankly, in this profession that I'm in, it's outrageous to me that you can play hardball. That doesn't mean you cheat. And if you cheat, there should be consequences, both to the person who is responsible. And frankly, if there is cheating that went on this, they should redo the election.
Zerlina, you're talking about people who are unsuspecting. Not everybody knows all the rules. If somebody comes by and acts official, they seem like an important person. They have this sort of a manner about them. It's, I'm here from the Election Bureau. I want to help you get your ballot in, which, by the way, you didn't even know you were going to get until we phoned it, or we mailed in for it. That is the scary part. It's completely taking the vote away from the person.
Right. It's going completely against the will of the American people when you're not allowing them to fairly cast their ballots and to make their voices heard. And so you're basically subverting democracy. And the great irony is that Republicans are the ones always talking about potential voter fraud. But when we actually have a case of real potential voter fraud, it's the Republicans doing it. And I agree with John. I agree with the Republican on the panel that we should make sure that elections are fair and every vote is counted.
Are you saying Republicans are more likely to cheat an election than Democrats? You're
no,
smiling.
what I'm saying is that in this
I thought I heard
case,
that.
the Republicans were talking about fraud,
Okay.
but they're the ones actually doing it.
I grew up in a big city. Okay, I'm sorry. It's been done before on the other side, too. Anyway, Dallas
Sure,
Woodhouse,
of course,
the
Chris,
executive...
but I'm talking about in recent years.
Of course. Okay, fair enough. Anyway, the executive director of the North Carolina GOP said he would support a new election only if fraudulent activity could be proven and shown to have changed the outcome of the November election. Let's listen to him.
We need to have a public airing of the facts very soon by the Board of Elections. If they can determine that there was wrongdoing and that those people should be criminally prosecuted under state and federal law, which we fully support, but numerically it could not have changed the outcome of the race, then Mr. Harris needs to be certified.
Well, earlier today, the Washington Post reported that both his party, that's the Republicans, and a regional political director for the National Republican Congressional Committee were warned of voting irregularities in the county during the primaries. As John mentioned, the NRCC denies those claims. However, former Republican Governor Pat McCrory said that he, too, raised concerns about Bladen County during his reelection campaign 2 years ago. Let me get back to Leanne. It seems to me the question is, if there's taint here, if there was cheating, criminality, should the election count, even if the numbers don't add up to the difference between the winner and the loser in the first count?
Yeah, it's interesting what Dallas Woodhouse said. He said that he would support a new election if there's enough evidence that would change the outcome. All he's stating is the law. That's what North Carolina law says, and that's what the Board of Elections would have to do if it would change the outcome of the election. You know, I talked to him just before we went on air about that Washington Post story and how they're saying that Pittenger, who's the Republican who ran against Harris in the primary, made these concerns to him and the party after the primary and said, look, there was something shady going on in Bladen County and Robeson County as well. And Woodhouse said he didn't remember. He couldn't confirm or deny. It's not something he recalled, but he said it's very likely that they did say something. It just didn't register at the time. And now they're trying to really distance themselves from it and say what's happening here is sickening and horrifying. But they're also protecting their candidate, Mark Harris. Woodhouse told me as well that Mark Harris had nothing to do with this, and he is an innocent victim. That's still a very open question, especially since a consulting firm that Mark Harris hired is the one that hired Dallas, who is running this absentee ballot operation. Chris.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.